Everybody, I want to shout out my beautiful wife. She done great for my birthday. She puts up with this crazy saw habit that I've got, and bars and chains and all that, and she even buys me stuff like this for my birthday. So it's a 28-inch light bar. She went and picked it up for me today at Monroe Feed and Farm in Tompkinsville, Kentucky. Monroe County, Kentucky. But because they're a whole lot cheaper if you can find, well, they're a whole lot cheaper at some of the dealers around here than they are like online. I think they're running about 150 bucks or 159 bucks, something like that. And that's just flat price for no discount or nothing. And she even bought me this. I'm gonna try it for a wedge banger because I don't like real long axes to when I'm banging wedges or whatever. Long handled axes, I should say. And it's not terribly heavy, and it looks like it's got a pretty good. So we're gonna try it out. And she bought me a hat, a steel hat, because I guess she knows when I get that saws back from Cajun and Aaron, I'm gonna be back on the steel kit, you know, the whole woo and the woo and still your daddy kick. After I get them the 400 and 500 back, they're gonna be the daddy of the Huskies again. Bad as I hate to say it. Anyhow, all jokes aside, I'm making this video, and I'm not trying to cut on anybody or talk about anybody's port work because I've only ran just a few people's saws that's been ported, there's only been a handful of people that's ported saws for me. I've not had everybody in the whole saw community port saws for me, no doubt about it. But I've had them ported a little bit of both ways, and I'm just gonna say the way that Aaron and Cajun port them, and Mastermind feels like he's pretty well there. He makes good power. I don't know if he's in short blowdown or whatever, or how he builds or whatever. That 395 made good power, and of course it's a 395, so they got quite a bit of power to begin with. But it's a stout saw, and I've seen saws that Mastermind's built, like the 400 and the 500 and all that, and they're quick. They hold their RPM and the cut really good, and I think he leans more towards the style of porting that Aaron and Cajun do. But what I'm getting at is I've got a clip coming up after this. Watch it. Stick it out that long and watch it. And I probably should have used a stock saw. Probably would have been a better picture of it. But regardless of the saw, you still get the principle of what I'm getting at. The only difference would have been if I used a stock saw. Both of the cuts in the hardwood and the softwood have been slower than what they are, but you still see what I'm talking about. The cuts in the softwood, like 3 and 4 seconds. The cuts in the hardwood is like 11 seconds, or 9 seconds. The softwood cuts half as fast. Like I could cut two chunks of softwood for about what it takes me to cut one hardwood chunk or cookie in this wood. I didn't officially time it. I did time, maybe I did in one of the videos or one of my things, but I've made this video several times and I get off rambling on some stuff that I'm just not going to put on my channel because, for one, I don't want it to be about drama, and for two, just because I don't agree with something, I don't agree with a few things that you see in this saw community or whatever, but I'm just going to keep my mouth shut about it until it's time not to keep my mouth shut about it. But I am going to touch on this because I don't want people to get hoodooed or get misled. because here's what you see quite often in saw porters, and not everybody, not all saw porters, and of course, or saw guys or people running ported saws or whatever you want to say. Even me, there's times that I cut in softwood, and then there's times that I cut in hardwood, and there's times that I cut in poplar and ash. And poplar and ash, although they're considered a hardwood, they don't cut much different than, the wood fiber is different, but as far as the ease of cut, as long as they're fairly green, which that's with any wood, they cut really easy. They cut just as good as the pine I cut in this video. And actually, if you look at, watch my last video, how square ground chain versus hardwood or something, I've got a couple of rounds of poplar in there, and I didn't think I did, but I found a limb that I had put in there, and I cut it, and it cuts like butter. So here's what I'm getting at with all this. You see a lot of guys, they want to argue how to port and say that you don't need to cut the base, cut the squish, blah, 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 and that you can just move air, lighten up the piston, and do this and that, and get a saw to run like Aaron and Cajun. And I'm not going to say you can't, but I've seen those saws cut in softwood, and while they look better than a stock saw does in hardwood, they still don't look like what that does in my softwood. You take and look at what they're cutting and see if it's about 2 hands, and see if they get through it in 3 or 4 seconds like I was doing. Theirs is more like what I was cutting with in the hardwood. I counted it out as I watched the video. It's up in the 7, 8, 9 seconds. So it doesn't run as good as that. And I'm saying all that to say this: it's no big deal if you're not paying that much money, or they're giving you a discount, or you're only paying for that type of work. But if you're paying for a complete port job, $300 to $450, whatever it may be, $500, whatever they charge, $600, whatever they charge, I don't know. All I know is what I get charged. But anyhow, and to me, I'm wanting the base cut and the squish cut and whatever else needs to be done. And don't get me wrong, I don't guess all saws that you necessarily have to do that. But to me, you can get a saw, doing it the other way, you can get a saw to run better than stock somewhat, but you're not going to get it to run like these. You're not going to get it to run like, Aaron saws, Cajun saws, Mastermind saws, Tree Monkey, Kevin Levanway, people of that nature. Gary Buxton, he makes some saws look pretty fast. He tests in hardwood, and there's some others that do test in hardwood and stuff. But J&S Chainsaw, he tests in hardwood. He's put some clips up of some saws that's got short blowdown, and they're ripping, but anyway, what I'm getting at, I'm not trying to call people out, just channels that I watch. And the deal is, you see all this softwood being cut, and all these people are talking about these saws are just amazing. And that's fine if you're in an area, if you're watching them and you're in an area that cuts softwood, you can get a saw from one of those guys, and it's probably going to feel pretty stout to you. But when you're like me, and a lot of us guys in the eastern part of the United States, southeastern, whatever, even up northeastern, up north, and far south that do have some pine or whatever. But our main wood is hardwood. We're select timber hardwood cutters, or most of the yard trees that we do are going to be hardwood. unless they're planted. You know, I have done a few spruce and a few pine, but they were planted, or you know, the pine might have been existing for a while. You know, but just you get what I'm saying. Most of the wood we cut is hardwood, so I could get a saw from one of them people, and I'm not going to be that tickled with it. You know, I ran saws with the base gasket deleted, and maybe the port around just a little bit. And sure, it ran better than stock, but it doesn't run like what Aaron and Cajun do, and some of those other guys that I named off. And also, I didn't pay as much either, so like it wasn't that big of a deal. But now, if I'd have paid $400, not knowing, and got that saw, and then paid for, you know, whatever, $300 to $400 for one of those saws, and got it, and then compared the two, I'd have been kind of chapped about the first, you know, one I got. But, you know, that's what I want. I got what I asked for there. I didn't want nothing just terribly hot, you know. I wanted the cheap build just to work my way into it. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm just using that as a reference point, so don't everybody get all wound up and get your mind wandering. But a good sharp chain and a loud pipe, and then softwood, you can make a stock saw, especially the newer ones. You can make them look just as good as, you know, a ported saw. And it's going to look faster than people that's testing in hardwood, even with a strong ported saw, in a sense. Because I'm pretty sure I could have got a stock saw and went through that pine in about the same time, or maybe less than what I went through that hardwood in. But you know, if you don't believe that that 572 is a stout saw, go back a couple videos ago, like the 572 versus the 592. I have some shorts of it, maybe, or even a long video. The 572 cleans up the 592. It beats it in the cut. I do 3 cuts. I always do. Most time I let one just glide through, just let the saw eat. That shows the RPMs. Then I apply pressure, and that I try to run it, push on it as hard as I can without slowing the saw down, keeping it in its power band still. And then the third one I try to dog in and let it eat. In all 3 cuts, that 572 beats the 592. So my thing is, if you're claiming that you can just move air and lighten stuff up and make a saw run as good as one of those, and those builds are junk, then let's see a build like that running against something that's 20 cc's larger than it and some fairly sizable wood. You know, like Aaron and Cajun, you know, they may cut in softwood or whatever, and I keep throwing them out there because they're saws that I run quite a bit of their saws, you know, or I've got a couple of them. But they test, and I've got 2 more being built by them, but they test in hardwood, and they do cut in softwood some. But, you know, they don't care to throw a 3-foot bar on there and go dig it in. Like Aaron will go dig it in that hickory. And hickory is hard wood. Red oak's hardwood. White oak's hardwood. You know, beech is hardwood. Tons harder than ash and poplar. Ash and poplar to me cut like pine does. Like a softwood. And poplar cuts really good. That's why it's the Timber Sports wood, because it cuts good enough. It's probably the best cutting wood there is, and that's why they use it. And ash is not too far behind it. Maybe a little harder, but not much, really. As long as it's wet. You know, dried out, it's totally different. But, you know, poplar is the best cutting wood there is. That's why a lot of people test in it. So, like, if you see somebody cutting poplar or pine or spruce or fir or something, you know, like a softer wood, really, how can you tell how good the saw is? You know, of course, I've seen them run, some of them run stock saws against, you know, their ported saws, and they do have better times. Don't get me there, but there's some that only just test and wood about that big, and they make 3 or 4 cuts, and then they claim they're the business of porting saws or whatnot, and everybody else is doing it wrong if you ain't doing it like them, and then you don't have nothing to go off of. So, you know, just what I'm trying to get at is do your research before you buy a ported saw. Make sure your builder is a good builder, and watch them run their stuff against other saws, you know, if nothing else, stock saws, or watch people, you know, I have a feeling if it's a fairly good builder, you know, you're gonna have people out there running your saws, you know, more than one running your saw, saying, oh, they're, you know, they build great saws. And, you know, be that what it may, I ain't trying to cause a big ruckus or fight about who's porting's right and who's not. I'm just saying these are good saws, and for me it's hard to believe you can just move air around and get a saw to run as good as that. That's all I'm trying to get at. And you know, I think that's fine if you're gonna claim that. I ain't saying it can't be done, but I would like to see the saw run against something other than just somebody running a piece of wood that big saying that it's hot. You know what I'm saying? Run it against another ported saw, or run it against a saw that's stock, that's bigger than it, and show everybody, you know what I mean? Like, put your money where your mouth is. And anyhow, that's all I'm gonna say that about that. And I'm gonna try to do some, I've got a saw coming that's being built. Could take up to 8 weeks to get here. And I did have Aaron and Cage import it. But I'm wanting to do it for testing purposes. Nothing against them, because I love their saw. And if I don't like the saw, I'm going to end up sending it to them. Sending it to one of them to fix it, of course. But, or just run it till it blows up, or keep it for a backup or something. But I'm getting it because I want to know how they do, how the person or people do with just an average guy. And I don't think they know that I have a YouTube channel. I don't know. I didn't say nothing about it. So, and they may know that I do. You know, I don't know. But then I didn't say, hey, I have a YouTube channel, blah, blah, blah. Could you build me a saw? I'm trying to keep it discreet because I want to know what you get. If the reporting is the same for average people as it is for more popular people, I guess you could say. And I want to know, you know, how they port, and plus, you know, show that the way Aaron and Cajun build saws is a good way, you know. And I don't, you know, it may be, they may build me a very, very stout saw, and either way I'm going to show it just like it is. And they may be stout in 2 different aspects, you know, I don't know, and they may be pretty close all around. But I'll get into more of that when I get it, or in another video when it comes closer to time. Because like I say, I don't want anybody finding out that I'm a YouTuber and going to put it out there and put it against other stuff, because I don't want them to go extra on it. I want it to be just like, you know, they think the saw's never going to be seen, just be run by an average person, you know, or whatever. And I'm sure it's not a bad build, you know, but there's a lot of different things I want to talk about, and I'll get into that in some future videos. So stay tuned for it if you're interested in that. I know I didn't leave you much to go on with that. And like I say, I don't really care who says what or who does what, because I'm happy with my saws, and I know they run good. I don't have to have anybody explain to me that they run good, because You know, I already know it. Anyhow, that's like Aaron's 562 hung with this 7900. You know, both those saws hang with something that's or beats, edges out in the cuts, whatever you want to say. Something 20cc bigger. So to me, that's really saying something. There's people that always say there's no replacement for displacement, and to me, that's hard. You know, it's hard for me to go with that because I've got two saws that do it. And you know, of course, if these saws were ported, it'd be a different story. But I'm just saying, then you're getting into a whole heavier saw and whatnot. But if your saws aren't hanging with something considerably bigger, then maybe you need to reevaluate. Maybe you need to reevaluate how you're doing stuff or whatever. And if you're building them and you're happy with them, that's fine. But you know, if you're charging $400 to $600 or whatever it is, $300 to $600, whatever it is to port them, you know, you might be taking advantage of people. But that's on the customer to decide, and I wanted to put this out here for people to know that if you only see a ported saw in softwood, it's really hard to tell what kind of power it makes, because you can make a stock saw with a sharp chain and a pipe look pretty fast. You know, you can make it look like you're leaning up on a saw, and you can also have a ported saw and lean on it so hard it looks like a turd. So it's all in the operator too, but you know, from what I can tell, some people is you know, they're cutting stuff like that, and I can kind of count the seconds off of how it's going through that softwood, and it's not that impressive compared to this. So I just wanted to give you something to kind of go off of, and this is probably going to make a lot of people mad, but I can't, you know, I'm not busting on any one person, I'm just saying in general. So if you get mad about it, then you're probably one that's doing it or whatever. So if you know, it is what it is. If you get mad about it, then run your saw against something bigger and show that you're right. Don't just talk about it. So anyway, we'll catch you on the next one, and y'all have a good one. Now, I've got the 562 and I've got the 572. The 572 has got one of my square grinds on it, and I've got the rakers set at the softwood setting on the Husqvarna gauge, and on the 562 it's set at the hardwood setting on the Husqvarna gauge. So I'm trying two different things out, and then I brought two more chains that I've got ground, and I want to see how long what I can cut before they get dull. But first I want to do a test on hardwood and softwood and show you the difference. And this is going to be a separate clip probably. From what I'm doing on the testing of the longevity. I want to show the difference between hardwood and softwood, and how people make saws that aren't really that greatly, they call them ported, but they're not really all that great of a build or hot of a saw in words. I mean, they probably run better than stock, but what I'm getting at is you can make a near stock saw or even a stock saw with the right chain set up look and cut really, really, really good, depending on the operator and depending on how much you lean on it. Only the operator really knows how hard he's leaning on a saw or whatever. You can port a saw and have it ported for RPMs or revs, whatever. A saw looks really, really good and fast, but it don't mean that it's that great of a build. You know what I'm saying? Until you lean on it. So I've got a piece of pine here. I don't know what kind of pine it is. It's some sort of pine, and I'm not really hip on all the different kinds of evergreens, firs and spruces and whatnot. And then I've got a piece of hardwood here that I'm going to cut off of too right there, because they're both about pretty close. palm of my hands here. About 2 hands. And the palm of my hands here. And it's about hitting here. Both of them are hitting here at the first bend of my finger. So they're about the closest that I can get. That's hard maple. And it's close to a knot. Wood's fairly dry, but not terribly dry. So I'm gonna do the 572 first, and I'm gonna show you. I'll probably try to do like, 3 cuts, just letting the saw eat, then dogging in or applying pressure or whatever. I'm just gonna play around with it, and we'll do the time cuts, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I am going to be careful with this pine because I do not want to hit my chain on the ground. I want to cut with it and see how long I can get on person can make any saw look really bad or really good, just depending on who's running it and how you run it. And not saying that other guys don't build good saws, or if you don't do much work to them, they ain't stronger than stock, because they maybe are. I have run saws that haven't had a lot of work done to them, and they are stronger than stock, but they're not as strong as like that 572 or the 562. Do a bit of a warm-up cut in that walnut there. I like the way that chain cuts. All right, here we go. Get on this maple and see what it's doing. All right, I was in a little bit of a knot there, as you can tell. I'll go down there and do a couple cuts off that piece. It may be a little smaller, this one here than my 2 hands or whatever, but it's, you know, well, it don't have a knot in it. It's about 2 hands deep, but it ain't as wide. But we're still gonna do it because I was not leaning on the saw hardly any, and it still cuts really good. This is a fast saw. A whole lot faster than stock. It hangs with the 592, but I can feel the difference in that pine and in the hardwood. The chain's looking fairly good. I'm liking this grind with the dog set on low, so that's what I'm getting at. So you got to be careful who you listen to and who you watch if you're cutting hardwood and softwoods, or if you're just cutting hardwood and you're watching somebody that cuts softwoods and saying that the saws is blah 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 blah, because ash, poplar, walnut, gum, stuff like that is hardwood, but it's softer than the white oak, the red oaks, your maples, all that kind of thing. They just are. I'll take a couple cracks off this walnut here, and this wood's fairly dirty, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. That's walnut for you. Big difference, you know. Just, you don't understand. You can take a saw with a muffler mod or a pipe that's not very stoutly ported, or just an average port job maybe, and make it look good in something like that right there. Make it look really good, especially if you don't lean on it and you got a really sharp chain. You got your drag set to the hardwood setting, which ends on softwood. It is semi-skip chain. It's not full skip, it's not full comp. Full comp would cut even faster if you got the saw to pull it. Semi-skip's just what I had sharpened first. So, I could get a little faster than that. And then when you get to the full comp and the hardwood there, it might slow it down a little bit. Probably not, because this saw is really stout. But what I'm getting at is you can take a stock saw, or not much more than stock, with just moving air, opening up transfers, lightening up the piston and stuff, and putting a pipe on it, and make it look pretty good and crap like that. But my thing is, does it look good in something like that? Hard maple, white oak, red oak, things of that nature. And not a knock to anybody, but I'm just saying, this saw here has had, as you can see, it's got the Cajun work saw sticker. It's got the gator on it because it chomps the hell out of some wood, you know what I'm saying? And but it's had machine work. I think he lent, Cajun and some of the guys I watch and the guys I get saws from and have them build me saws, I think they lean towards the shorter blowdown aspect of it. And that is, if you watch all them guys, Mastermind, Cajun, Aaron A. Lynch, Tree Monkey, they're cutting in hardwood. And I ain't saying they don't never test in softwood. They may show it in softwood, but they also test in hardwood, big hardwood with long bars. We'll catch y'all on the next one. I may finish this up.